Hey guys, welcome back. It's been 4 months. I know, 4 months. I know, I'm a freaking inconsistent YouTuber who doesn't do anything. Anyway, welcome back. And today we're gonna be doing something a little different. I wanted to make a lot of people do tier lists. And there is this guy who used to do like the top 5 perks in the game currently in DBD, High Time he used to be called. He wasn't that great of a person, but his idea was always good, and I always enjoyed watching that type of series, so I thought I would make my own. So that being said, this is similar to his, but I'm going to be doing this in current year DBD, and there's a lot more perks to choose from than there was back in the day, and a lot more perks into the game. So these perks are going to be the top 5 perks in the entire game. Now, obviously, certain killers benefit with other perks compared to others, but these are the perks, in my opinion, that are top tier at the moment and pretty much strong. And number 5 would have to be, in my opinion, Floods of Rage. It would be on the number 5 spot. Floods of Rage is one of the newer perks that came out, and ever since this perk came out, this perk has opened up a lot more opportunities with Killer in general, especially with certain perk combos. Basically, this perk works is after you hook a survivor, you start, basically on the start of the match, there's 4 random hooks. Those hooks are turned into Scourge hooks. Scourge hooks are seen in a white aura, but they're special. When you hook a sword on a Scourge hook, it gives you an effect, or, in this perk's case, if you when a survivor is unhooked from this hook, all survivors' auras are revealed to you for 7 seconds except the guy who is on the hook. So basically, the guy who you rescued and the other 2 survivors, if there's 4 people alive. Basically how that works. Now, why is this perk good? Well, this perk synergizes with almost every kill in the game. There's not really many killers that this perk does not work on. Actually, I think this perk works better than certain killers like Barbecue and certain killers. Huntress is a prime example. But I think this perk overall is so good for the game and has opened up a lot more possibilities into DBD's history. I will give, as a note with these series, I am going to be doing a specific perk build that, like a perk that synergizes well with them as well, so you guys can have some fun and give it a try. And Scourge of Pain has introduced a perk that was always considered, the perk was always considered good, but it never was viable because it was so inconsistent with how it worked, and it never really, you couldn't get guaranteed value. You could try to get guaranteed value, but this perk normally didn't get any value whatsoever. You got some value out of it. I mean, it gave you value by just existing, because the guy just would not do gens because of the effect. But now, with its current state, you can pretty much guarantee it with this perk on. You can basically guarantee where they're going and use it to basically use this perk to great effect. And this came with a killer that was highly hyped for. And I was happy to see this perk getting a change, like having some synergy. And getting technically a buff, technically speaking, by this perk's introduction. Which is, make your choice. You guys probably already saw this coming, but I just wanted to give it. Make a choice, I'll explain quickly. Basically, when a survivor's 32 meters away from you, basically, if you hook a survivor, and then the survivor gets unhooked, if you're 32 meter away, they get exposed. The rescuer. Which means the guy who rescued gets exposed, but you have to be without a 32 meter range of the hook. This means that the survivor most likely will go hide. So this perk normally means that you want to go back to the hook. But the problem is, make a choice doesn't always allow this, because, well, the survivor will just go and hide everywhere. But that's where Floods of Rage comes in. Which then allows you to see with the guy who's exposed and go for it for him. And then you can go for the immediate insta-down. Insta-downs are a huge deal, and make a choice has become more consistent with this perk introduction. I've actually had a couple killers that really synergize well with this. But I just wanted to give you, the perk combo can work almost every killer too. It's not just certain killers that benefit, almost every killer benefits from this. Even insta-down killers actually do benefit from this. Because they don't actually have to use their power, they can just M1 you down. Too. And you have to use a basic attack, by the way, so you can't use powers, but That's okay, because the guy is probably going to be trying to hide, and then he's just getting down because he's in a bad spot, because he's not playing safe, because, well, he's not going to play safe. He needs to, instead of being found, he wants to hide. That's where this perk really shines, is they're trying to hide from Make Your Choice. So they're going to be in a bad spot, so you can easily get the M1 hit. So this perk combo has done a lot over the years, and I honestly think Scourge Floods of Rage has made Make Your Choice good, so... Honestly, Make a Choice is probably my 6th perk on this list. This perk has gone way stronger over the years, and it's just going to keep getting stronger from here. So that being said, Floods of Rage is the number 5 spot. Number 4. I think everyone has seen this coming. No Way Out. No Way Out has risen in popularity, and it's still dominant today, if I had to be honest. And good reason. This perk is pretty good. Because it's an endgame perk, but that isn't fucking useless. I'm talking about you, Blood Warden. Blood Warden needs a full-on rework. In my opinion, Blood Warden needs a full-on rework to make this perk viable again. But, anyway, let's talk about No Way Out. Basically, this perk does is, you get a guaranteed 12 seconds. When the exit gates are powered, for 12 seconds, this perk will block all exit gates. And will block the exit gate switches so they cannot be opened. So basically a Blood Warden on the exit gate switches. And you get a notification which one they're trying to start when they activate the perk. The perk only works when the survivor tries to activate it. Now, why is this important? Well, no, so they need to fix that because it's not when the exit gates are powered, because this perk also works when hatch is kicked, if you didn't know. So it's not, it should be when the endgame collapse starts. Or when the basically, when you kick hatch. Yeah, I don't know why this perk works when it says that, but it doesn't. Anyway, that's not here or there. Anyway, basically for each, but it has an extra effect. Each survivor, when you touch it, or when you hook a survivor, each one uniquely. So every unique survivor hooked, so basically you can get up to 4 stacks, you get a stack. Each stack gives you, or token, gives you 12 seconds extra. So basically in tier 3, if you have No Way Out and you have 4 stacks, you can get 60 seconds of slowdown. Which means in 60 seconds, they cannot do the exit switches. This is fucking huge. 60 seconds is a long time. You can definitely stall the game out. This perk has risen in more popularity lately, and it's honestly really good. Because it also works during hatch standoffs, so it's not completely useless. If you're trying to get to endgame, but let's say you don't, that's where this perk comes in. Because when you kick hatch, this perk still activates, which means this perk, when the survivor tries to go touch a door, will get blocked, which means you can basically insta-find where the last guy is, because it literally tells you the notification where the guy touched the door. So basically, Hatch, they know this is your fuck. If he kicks Hatch, you're done with No Way Out on. This perk is absolutely insane. And it's really good. Another perk, high honorable mention is, I think, is a Wesker perk that a lot of people don't really realize, and it's Terminus. Terminus is actually really good with this, because it says when the exit gates are powered, this perk activates. While Terminus is active, injured, down, or hooked survivors are afflicted with the broken until exit gates are opened. Which means this perk benefits well from No Way Out, because it prevents them from being opened in the first place. And this will completely prevent people from healing. And you can injure them and they'll get instantly broken if it happens. So, this perk can set you up for some endgame plays. And honestly, it's a really good combo. So, I highly recommend these try and give these two a try. And it uses one of the perks that isn't very popular. So, getting some more synergies and builds in TBD's realm. Alright, number 3. And you all saw this coming. Pain Resonance. Pain Resonance is, in my opinion, one of the strongest perks, but it's not as strong right now, according to the meta. But, I think it's still one of the top tier. That's why I have it on the list. Pain Resonance. Scourge Chuck Pain Resonance, basically, you hook a star on a Scourge Chuck, just like Floods of Rage. But instead, when you hook a star on a Scourge Chuck, it activates effect, instead of when you get rescued. Basically, if you hook a survivor, the most progressed generator explodes, instantly losing 50%. Which means this perk just adds additional regret. It's basically like pop goes, like, it's like a jolt that's across the map. Basically, as long as you hook them on Scourge hooks. That's basically what this is. Kind of. So, well, it's just good to know. Well, the reason why this perk is so good is due to its passive. You just hook survivors on them. You don't have to do anything, it's just passive. So you don't have to go out of your way to go use this. And obviously, this perk has had a lot of success in the past, and oh yeah, by the way, it does make the survivor scream when it's on the, like, it will scream the character, but it won't actually show you the bubble. Why is this good? It's because it actually tells you what character it is, but you don't know where. But it just shows you what character the survivor is on. But what if I told you you can know what gen they were on? Dun dun dun! I'm just kidding. You can't actually tell unless you have a perk on. And I'm gonna tell you the best. A lot of people would say, run freaking, what's it called? Deadman switch. A lot of people are yelling at me, Deadman. However, that has counterplay. This combo does not have counterplay, and this Strongo is even stronger, in my opinion, than Deadman. And that is Surveillance. A lot of people don't understand the interaction with Surveillance. I'm gonna teach you right now. A common counterplay against Surveillance, or against Pain Resonance, is to let go of the gen. This is mostly used to counter Deadman Switch. Deadman Switch is basically a perk that if you activate on a gen, basically how Pain Resonance works is when the gen explodes and someone's on it, it'll knock them off. Which means Deadman Switch immediately activates on the gen and blocks it. So the survivors like to do is they let go of the gen, then they'll keep touching. That's where Surveillance comes in. Because, technically speaking, the gen is regressing. Because the survivor let go. They got knocked off. So it considered regressing. So for Surveillance, it just starts automatically turning it white. But then the survivor will go back on it and turn it yellow. Which means you exactly know which gen they're working on, even if you didn't hear their scream. Which means you know they're letting go on for Pain Resonance. But Surveillance tells you what gen they're on. Which is actually basically barbecue and chili as a perk. Because it tells you this is basically a rip-off version of, what do you call it? Barbecue. And it gives you gen regression. On top of that. You see why I think this combo is good? Not to mention, this perk still works even if they scream. Because if you Pain Resonance someone and they scream, right? This happens a lot at the start of the match, but they don't know you have Pain Resonance. Unless you just guess they have it, which most killers do, so it's easy to guess. But if you guess it, let's say survivor screams, right? It knocks them off the gen. Therefore, since survivors, when they let go of a gen, if it was caused by a regression perk, it keeps regressing. This is like Eruption, is a good example. Or Jolt. Which means Surveillance still activates on the gen. Which means when the survivor touches the gen again, it turns yellow. Basically what happens is they let go for a second and then come back on it. Because of how the explosion works. It's that interaction. So Surveillance automatically triggers. Which means you know exactly what survivor it was. Because you can hear their scream, and if you're good enough, if you've been playing the game for a while, you'll understand that you can tell the survivor by the scream. You'll know that it's a certain character. Let's say they're all different characters. You'll know which character it was because you can tell by their scream. Then you know their exact location because of Surveillance. Not to mention, Surveillance is really strong on defending gens. Because it's just free or reading. You just kick a gen and basically prevents the virus from even, like, you know exactly when they touch it. And this perk lasts as long as the gen is regressing. So if it's either they touch it or it fully regresses the gen, which then you know if this perk didn't turn yellow and then the gen turned from white to red, you know for sure the survivor completely left that gen, and that perk is basically, you basically know that that gen is not being touched because the perk regressed it. Surveillance is such an underrated killer perk, and it just synergizes so well with it. Basically, Surveillance, if you should know by now, but basically, Survivor, basically when you touch the gen, when you kick a generator, it will turn the generators white, in white. And then if a survivor touches it, it turns into a yellow aura for 16 seconds. Basically, it tells you if someone touches it. And then it also makes noises louder, which isn't that much important, but it does help a little bit. Maybe hearing through a wall or something. But yeah, surveillance overall is this two perk combo is basically everything you need on a killer, if I had to be honest with you. Like, that's how strong this combo is. I don't run this combo much, and I really should. Because this combo literally does everything for you. Like, if you want to play in a passive playstyle, this is the combo to do it. Because it just tells you everything. You know exactly when survivors are touching gens. You know exactly where to go after a hook, which is huge for killer. Because that's why barbecue and chili is still played a lot. Because most killers don't know where to go. I generally have the game sense to do it. So, but this also helps you a lot because pain resistance always explodes the gen that has the most progress. Which means you know exactly what gen to go defend. Or at least, like, pressure it a bit so they take a long time getting it done. Because sometimes just pressuring a gen a little bit and delaying it can be a huge deal for some killer. And actually win you games. So it tells you exactly what information you need to know. And that's why this combo is so strong. A lot of people started to use it a little bit, and then they just died with it. And I don't know why people aren't using this more. But I just wanted to talk about it. Alright, perk number 2. I think everyone is going to hate me saying this. This is current TDD patch, by the way. This isn't adjusting to the new nerfs that they're adding to the perks, which is Eruption. Eruption is the second best perk in the game right now. Highly recommend Eruption. Eruption basically is one of the strongest perks in the game right now. It is the most annoying too, which saddens me to say. Basically, what happens is you kick a gen, it highlights in yellow for you. Basically, if you hit someone in the dying state, it instantly regresses the gen by 10%. Kind of like you pre-put a jolt basically into it, like pain resonance, and then it just explodes it. So it's passive. You just kick the gen, and then go around and down people, and you'll get this perk. Also, it deactivates the perk once you down them, and it activates it once and cancel. But if a survivor's on a gen when this happens, they expose when they incapacitate it for 25 seconds, which means basically the survivors can no longer work on anything for 20 seconds. 25 seconds, sorry. Yeah, it's very annoying. That's the reason why this perk is annoying. It's not actually because it's not this first effect. Its first effect is actually fine. I find it fine. I don't really find that much of a big deal. It's like jolt basically. It's basically just a jolt. It ain't that big of a deal. It's the second effect that's the problem, and why I find it annoying. At least for me, I find that second effect annoying. That's why I think all they have to do with the perk is remove that secondary effect and add something else. And I guarantee this perk won't be as hated. It probably won't be hated at that point. But I thought I would just mention it. But this perk is used in so many different builds right now, and it's gone out of control in how annoying this perk is. But I'm gonna give you guys good synergy with it. A good synergy, in my opinion, would have to be in my opinion, a good synergy with it could actually be Trail Torment. Because the thing about Trail Torment with Eruption, I think these two actually are really good together because of the way the perk works. Eruption turns the gen yellow, so does Trail Torment for the survivors, which means you know exactly what gen the killer kicked. Now, at first, you might think that's a nerf to the killer because you know what's Eruption. But here's the problem with this. If the killer kicked multiple gens before Trail Torment was active, and then you become undetectable, which means this allows you to get free downs, because it means that basically you have no tear radius until they touch it. Which you know that the survivor might go work on it, because most of the time you're going to kick a gen that's like medium progress, so you can keep getting Trail Torment, which means you can get Eruption value. Because they'll work on it because they want to keep doing it because they know the killer wants to defend it. And then, boom, you can activate Eruption. Because the Trail Torment gives you a free health state before it deactivates. Unless it's either you hit them or someone else touches it, interrupts it. So yeah. I just think these two work really well together and can help you basically almost guarantee eruption value, because one free health state or even instant is huge. Alright, let's go to the #1 perk in the entire game right now, which is called Brine. There's no fucking perk better than this fucking perk right now. Even Eruption gets overshadowed by it because it works in builds that isn't fucking Eruption around. Basically, if you kick, basically how called Brine works, after damaging a generator, this perk becomes active for 60 seconds on that generator. During that time, generators regress at 200% of its normal regression during that time, and its aura is in yellow for you, so you can see what gen that you kick. Now, each time a survivor completes a good skill check on the generator affected by this perk, you receive a loud notice notification. What does this mean? This is a gen defend perk. You see, you kick a gen, it regresses 200%, which is for 60 seconds. That's a big deal, considering Ruin does this too. Old Ruin used to do this. You know how strong Old Ruin was? Ruin on dying? Yeah. Now do that without a perk requirement. And you get a built-in basically surveillance, because most survivors hit good skill checks. So, and you combine this overcharge. Yeah, good luck. Good luck with this perk, buddy. This perk is a fucking powerhouse. This perk was already underrated, and then this perk became OP overnight. Because Eruption. This perk is absolutely OP. This perk was overshadowing Pop Goes the Weasel. This is old Pop, too. People were even using Call of Brine before Pop Goes the Weasel. Before the nerf. It was when Pop got nerfed, is when Call of Brine became meta. Like, Pop got killed, even though they didn't need to. Because now we had two perks that were really strong into the meta. Now everyone's like, oh, but you could have Pop and Call of Brine. Well, that's overconsidered, because here's the thing. You don't need Pop and Call of Brine in the same fucking build. Sorry to tell you. Because they both do a different effect. Pop was a large chunk generator regression perk, while Call of Brine was over time. So they don't work together, because you're going to get tons of Pop value from before Call of Brine. The only time it's going to work, you kick the gen early with Call of Brine, but at that point, you don't need to. Because Call of Brine regresses it, because no one else is going to be fucking on it. Unless you push it to people, but that situation in itself. So that's why I don't think Pop and Call of Brine would have been OP together. To be honest, because it's over. You're basically overdoing it. You don't need it, because it's just they both have their own type of style. That's why Pop Goes the Weasel only had one perk that really ran with it, which is Corrupt. Corrupt Intervention was probably the most ran perk with Pop. Now, everyone ran Ruin Pop because Ruin also kind of benefited killers in the early game if you have high mobility. But with killers with low mobility, they ran Corrupt Intervention instead. It's due to how Ruin basically allows you the gen to regress a little bit when you're not working on it. So it does gen regress into the survivor, and then you can fall back and call Pop Goes Weasel, which is an inconsistent. It's more consistent than Ruin is, but it's more inconsistent in the fact that it's not like immediate regression like Ruin is, where you can just do everything you want. You actually have to go out of your way to go use it. So it was just more of a backup. Ruin is usually used on the first 2 to 3 gens, and then the last 2 to 1 gen left. When there's 1 or 2 gens left, that's when people they'll break the totem probably, and then they'll have Pop Goes the Weasel as a backup for the 3 gen strategy, which is what Pop excels in. Pop is a very good 3 gen oriented perk in general. Yeah, Call of Brine is just that on steroids. So guess what people started running with Ruin? Call of Brine instead of Pop, because Call of Brine is 10 times better. It gives you more, basically the same amount of regression, but it also gives you tracking on top of that. I wonder why people say around and call Brian over Pop Goes to Weasel. And then when Pop got nerfed, well, Call Brian became the top meta. This perk is almost used in every fucking build. Because Behavior is an idiot. Now, let me go and, give you a perk to synergize with it, which is, I think this one perk is pretty obvious. Nowhere to hide. What does this perk do? Basically, whenever you damage a gen, reveal the auras of all survivors standing within 24 meters of it. You're gonna be kicking gens a lot because Call of Brian has no fucking limit. As long, like this perk has literally no fucking limit. So all you have to do is use Nowhere to Hide and just keep every gen you kick with Call of Brian. You just basically get free wall hacks on everyone around it. So basically, you get everything you need for gen regression and wall hacks for 3 gens. And then you can run basically any other build you want. It does a nice little tracking in the end too. So yeah, those are my top 5 perks in the game. So what would I do to change up this meta a little bit? I'm also going to do in this video, on these videos, is to give my opinion on how to either buff them, nerf them, like either tone them down or, you know, actually fix the meta so it's not like these perks are a little bit less of a powerhouse and more. Because, in my opinion, it's okay to have strong perks in the game. I'm not saying these perks need much ground. I'm saying it's okay to have good perks. In my contrary, I actually promote that. But what I think these perks need to be, even from a survivor and a killer main point of view. I'm a killer main, but I also play survivor, so I understand both sides. And why these are frustrating. But, let me talk about... Let's talk about, like, the reason why Call of Brian is so strong right now is because there's no alternatives. Right now, there's only 2 builds in the game that are really ran. Either Call of Brian with Eruption or Overcharge, or all 3. Usually Call of Brian is in the mix, always. Or Eruption is always there, too. Usually those 2 paired. Or, it's Pain Resonance Deadman. Which is why I put Pain on the Resonance on the list. So, but what's the problem? Alternatives. What do they all have in common? The same fucking playstyle. What do you think why Blight is so fucking strong right now? Blight is stronger than Nurse right now due to the meta of the game. I think Blight is a meta-dependent killer depending on the meta. Blight is strong with the 2 things that the meta has been for years. Has been right now. Back in 2017, 2018, we had a Ruin meta, but we had a slugging Ruin meta. Where killers used Ruin, and then they would use Slug. So, guess who was strong in that time? Nurse. So is Billy. Because Billy slugs pretty well. And he doesn't need Ruin. But, like that being said, what is the problem right now? We have 2 builds that are basically ran every game. Deadman Pain Resonance, or Call of Brian with Eruption, or all 4. For the massive amount of FU to the survivors. And being hella annoying. That being said, so what needs to be changed? Well, let me get some thoughts. 1, changing Blood Warden a bit. Blood Warden, I think, is a good start. Blood Warden will open more endgame possibilities. So, my idea here is this perk only works when the exegates are powered. So basically, this could not work during hatch standoffs. So, keep that a note. But, this perk, when the doors are opened, all exit gates are immediately blocked for 60 seconds regardless. So, this helps counter 99 trick. This will automatically hard counter 99, so you can't 99 doors in front of the killer's face, if you think the killer has Blood Warden on. This would also change this perk entirely, because this would be more of an endgame oriented build. Now, everyone's yelling at me, but how about No Way Out with Blood Warden to basically make 2 minutes? Well, to be fair, I don't like that idea either. So, I have an alternative solution to this. Blood Warden basically nullifies all other endgame perks once it's activated. Or, Basically, it once you have this perk equipped, all other blocking game for endgame do not work. So you cannot run this with No Way Out, for example, or Remember Me. However, there is a perk that I think can be run with this. There's 2 perks in the game that could probably be ran with this. Noed and Rancor. And Bitter Murmur. Now, why do I say Noed? Well, Noed's a big obvious. Noed just insta-downs everyone, so you don't even need to hook people with this perk. So you can just start slugging people. So it's an endgame oriented build. 2. Obviously, Rancor comes in mind. A lot of people with Rancor like to leave early. So, with Rancor on. So they'll just open the door. That's where Bloodborne comes in. Because you don't really know what door they opened. All you know is they opened a door. And then it blocks all exit gates. This prevents the fucking obsession from leaving, so you can actually use the build properly. And use Rancor. I mean, this would add another perk combo to the game. Because now Rancor would actually see some use. Because I think Rancor is an underrated perk entirely, but most people don't use it because of how terrible it is. But with Bloodborne being in the game, yeah. Have some synergy with some perks and not perks with others. While No Way Out and Remember Me have its own synergy with other perks in the game. But it's a different style. That would also help add more builds into DVD, because now killers can focus more on an endgame build. Or maybe make Bloodborne have a caveat where exit gate switches could not be blocked and they all have the set time when this person's on. So you can't use like No Way Out, Remember Me. You're welcome. Perk limitations. That's how you do it. Alright. Pop Goes the Weasel. Buffing it. It's only slightly. Changing it so it's not based on current progression. It's all the time, 20%. Equal it's originally. Basically, the perk used to be 25%. But to help deal with the gen kick meta, I'm keeping it the same as just 20%. Since gen times are longer, technically it's still the same time. The difference is it's based on the current progress. The problem is that isn't really feasible because most gens are not at full 90 to 80 when you use this perk. You'll have like a gen like halfway done and then you try to use this and it just does nothing. So I'm basically making this have a set number. This is why you can tweak it. If it's still too strong, make it 18%. And lower it a little bit, do slight nerfs. But I want the perk to be good again. Because this perk is terrible at the moment. This would also help fix the meta a little bit. Because then, we'll have Corrupt Intervention again. Which means Pop and Corrupt can go hand in hand. Corrupt Intervention helps delay the game just enough that you can get Pop Goes Weasel early. Which means, it's good. It gives another perk into the fucking meta of the game. And Pop Goes Weasel's always been bad. So, it adds another, you could say, oh, it adds another gen kick perk. Not really. The only perk I can see this working with is Eruption. The other two don't work. You don't want to put it with Overcharge, and you don't want to put it with Whole Brine. Because they both are meant to regress the gen passively, not instantaneous. Pop Goes Weasel benefits from instantaneous. This is why it works with Oppression, because what happens is a Pop Goes Weasel is an individual gen kick. You're not supposed to go around using it all a bunch of times. You're supposed to use it on a specific target. Which means this perk is weak to the fact that if you can't kick multiple gens at the same time with it, that's its biggest weakness. That's why it was compared a lot with Oppression. Oppression is a perk that basically allows you to kick multiple gens at the same time. Now, Oppression needs a buff in itself, but I'll do that in more like the weakest perks in the game, because it's one of the weakest perks in the game right now, in my opinion. But that'll be for a different video. But the idea here is to buff Pop a little bit. But because Pop is an instantaneous target, while the other perks are more like meant to help control multiple instead of individual. The only one that's not the case is Eruption. Which I think once they change Eruption's effect, it won't be that big of a deal. Because honestly, that's the only problem with Eruption. I want to honestly just say, just change its secondary effect and you'll be good. Because in my opinion, pop isn't that big of a deal to begin with. And this would also help open up the meta a little bit more. In making, not full gen kick, but it'll have different style of gen kick. It's either you go for large chunks, like pop goes, or you can go more like a lot of gen control, which is like call, brine, overcharge, things like that. Nowhere to hide. Because pop at the moment doesn't have much synergy with all the perks in the game, and it only had like 1 to 2 perks that really worked well with in the gen kick category, which is literally Corrupt Intervention or Ruin as a backup. But making pop just enough solid that it can handle its own is a good thing, because it adds more possibilities in the meta, which is good. Because making perks back into the meta gives more leeway for more builds and creativity. But also, since there's a lot of strong perks in the game that all do the same, like, have multiple, there's actual variety, which means the builds in DPD will vary, which means you probably won't be facing the same 2 builds every game that is currently. Because that's the main issue right now. Next buff. Buffing Ruin. Back to 200%. Ruin was nerfed to the ground, and I'm bringing it back to 200%. But I'm still keeping the caveat, so any survivor is killed by this perk deactivates. But it's bringing back to 200%. This should bring back Ruin Undying. Ruin Undying was a perk combo that basically died out because of the nerf. So, bringing it back to the meta. Ruin Undying promotes a whole different playstyle. So, buffing it will give it back into the meta and make the playstyle viable again. Which means there's more builds in the game, which means there's more perk builds. Therefore, there's more synergy. Therefore, which means a healthier game. I don't know how the devs don't realize this, but there you go. But that's another thing. That's how you fix this meta currently, to make other perks viable. Okay, so yeah, that's basically this video. I think everything else is fine right now. There is a couple other things I would probably go change and buff up, but that's here for another video when we talk about the worst perks. When we talk about the worst perks in this series, when I go over the worst perks, in my opinion, in the game right now for a killer, and then do the same thing for both Survivor and Killer, or for Survivor as well. I'm going to, on the worst ones, I'm going to give actual, like, reworks that buff to them, to make them feel viable or maybe unique. Because some of the perks are actually kind of cool, but then they actually need a slight buff and they'll actually become viable and good in the game. But, that being said, I hope you guys are watching this video. I know this video isn't really gameplay, this is me more just making a new video idea, but I hope you guys do enjoy watching this. Hopefully soon I'll be able to start editing, and then I'll be able to do more like basic edits and stuff for you guys, once I learn how to do that, because that's something I do want to learn. So, but that being said, I hope you guys catch on my next video, and of course, I did promise Billy gameplay, so we're going to be doing Billy gameplay probably next. Or, we'll probably do some Survivor first, and then we'll probably... The next killer one is probably going to be Hillbilly. Maybe I'll do a Billy game and then play. Because there is a killer I do want to play on this channel, which is the Knight. I want to show off the Knight and what he needs to be done, as I have him selected. Because the Knight is kind of cool. I love his aesthetic and everything, but his gameplay design is terrible. And I will probably talk about that when I play him. With that being said, catch me on the next one, guys. I'll talk to you guys later. And yeah, GG's and peace out. Or not GG's. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out. And, of course, see you later. And always have fun. A quick reminder before I know I'm a procrastinator, okay? Just let me do a friendly reminder. Just have fun. This game is not meant to be taken serious, like everyone else does. Now, obviously, this game can be really frustrating when playing Killer, especially Killer, because you're trying to play a Killer who's really weak, and it's just like you feel like you're terrible and you can never play the game. So that's a thing. But I just want to talk about this before anyone yells at me. Um, just have fun with the game. Don't take this game too seriously, and just have a good time. I know people like to be competitive. I'm a competitive person myself, so I completely understand this. But try to have fun with it, so. You don't need to play the super try hard. I'm going to make sure no one has fun. Just try to have a bit of fun. I mean, obviously try to play to win, but also have fun with doing it. And just have a good time. There's really no reason to sweat your balls off in this game. Just, you know, do what you think is fun and enjoy yourself. That's how I have in my own mindset. That's how I've gotten better at, you know, Killer and Survivor. Is literally my mindset has changed. That's why I got back into DVDs, because I changed my mindset. But yeah. Anyway, I'm actually gonna officially sign off here. I'll talk to you guys later. See you all, and peace out.